everybody, and welcome to our next incredible conversation on You Are the Medicine. Today, we have somebody that has inspired me greatly. Her name is Dr. Alicia MacPherson. I hope I have pronounced that correctly. She is not only a weight loss expert, but also she works in the arena of nervous system regulation and stress. I was going to say regulation, but reducing stress, particularly for women that are in the A-type, those women that are highly driven and working in successful environments. She's now moved over as well to be a business coach and mentor, having broken the barrier of the 4 million in 4 years inside of a wellness brand, which is something to really, really congratulate. Alicia, sorry. Welcome. Hello.
Thank you. What an introduction. Thank you.
We get a bit tongue-tied, but we get it in there. I think what I'm really excited about for this particular conversation is you have brought such an interesting and easy way to understand something that potentially is very complicated for a lot of women in their health. And I'm noting here the hormones. You know, something I've been following you for quite some time, and the energy that I have seen in terms of your personal growth and the way that you have effervescently sort of grown into this space of sharing this knowledge, but in such a fun, easy way, has sort of captured the imagination of many women, different ages, but particularly around their hormones and how that affects their happiness, their fulfillment, their weight, but also their business. So I'd love if you could start us in this kind of arena of You Are the Medicine. You are a doctor to start off with, and it's naturopathic, I understand. So I'd love to kind of have a look at that process for you, how you started your journey and got yourself to this space where you are one of the leaders, particularly in the social space, in hormone health and education.
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I kind of just, to be honest, stumbled into it when I went through my own journey. That I was feeling very burnt out. I felt all these symptoms were coming up and I didn't really understand them. I was gaining weight and it was just so confusing to me what was happening. And I stumbled upon a naturopath in my area and started to get a little bit of information, not everything that I wanted, but it was a step closer to healing myself. And so that really snowballed the journey to finding the school I went to interning with these amazing other practitioners. And then never thought I would be in women's health. I thought I was going to be going into pain management, working with athletes, being an athlete myself. But I just followed the call. Like, I resolved my hormonal issues. I got my metabolism working. I lost the weight. I started to feel calmer in all areas of my life. Energy, mood improved. And so people started asking, what are you doing? Teach me your ways. And so I started guiding other women, supporting them on this journey, and got me to where I am. So it kind of just unfolded very beautifully.
Oh, and that's the beautiful energy, isn't it? It's like this unfolding when you're following, you mentioned there, like following this call. And I really want to move into that maybe now and through our conversation, this pull, this call, this, oh, there's something not quite right. I'm going to go down this avenue. And actually, I thought I was going to go into pain management, but something's pulling me elsewhere. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and kind of how you felt moving through this, let's call it intuition?
Totally. I think of it kind of like alignment. I'm always looking for alignment in my life. And for a while, it was other people just planting almost like intuitive hits to me. Like, I met this woman, she was kind of healer, I'm going to say, in Ireland when I was leaving Ireland. And she sat down in the weirdest situation. When I was leaving Ireland, I was leaving a relationship and I didn't want to go home, but I felt I needed to go home. And she sat down at the airport with all these tables. She sat down beside me and she said, "You should be a naturopath." And I'm like, "What's a naturopath?" So I've always been the weird one, very spiritual. I studied Buddhism. I've been meditating since I've been 12, like that weird child that didn't really fit in with how my family viewed food and nutrition and lifestyle. And so I just followed those hits, the people that were telling me certain things, and I would just tap into it and get that feeling, is this where I need to be? And so now I recognize, it's always been alignment for me as a projector in human design. My not self theme is bitterness. So now I know I'm either following the success or I'm following bitterness. And I'm always paying attention to that. Is this the right path for me? Am I growing or am I out of alignment? And that's helped me a lot in my journey in deciding what's next, what's the next move. Even in the health space, when I was going through my healing journey inside, it was, does this feel good? Is it just uncomfortable, or is it not the right thing for me in my body?
I love that. Gosh, there's so much there to unpack. First of all, Ireland, absolutely love it. Kind of need a bit of a side conversation about that. Where did you go? Who did you see? Was she a gypsy? That kind of energy. But isn't it amazing that you mentioned human design, the projector being in alignment, being the weird one in the family, being the one that's always looking elsewhere. And part of this series, I'm looking at these energies that we go from wounds to wisdom to wealth if we allow ourselves to move into alignment. And wounds don't always have to be traumatic, but they can be that developmental energy that, we think we're the weird one, but actually what it happens to be is an alignment for something that is greater down the line. Can you give us a little bit of energy around, you mentioned Buddhism, you mentioned meditating as a child. What were those wounds that essentially were the diamonds that were ready to be polished into wisdom?
Yeah, I like that you said here, it doesn't have to be this big traumatic event. Like even right now in my life, and I've done a good job at this up to this point, was when I feel emotional intensity, let's call it. So if I'm triggered by something, if I find myself in a lower frequency emotion, if things don't feel good for me, I consider that the warning bell, and also a sign to look in at what do I need to unpack or heal to get to that next level. So I've always been very vision focused. If I know what my desire is, I know how I want to feel in my life, in my body, in my business. If that's crystal clear, then I think everything that's given to me is that mirror to say, okay, you still need a little work on your self-worth here. You don't have really good boundaries here. You get very triggered in these situations. This is a wound that still needs to be healed. So I'm always looking in and being like, ooh, that situation just really affected me. What's going on? Where's the roots of that? What needs to be healed so that I feel deserving? I feel like my boundaries are strong and I feel like I'm moving towards that desire that I set in place.
It's delicious. It's beautiful. And there is going to be a section of this audience that will be like, oh yeah, that feels good. And then there's going to be another section of the audience that are like, yeah, but how? And being in that spiritual seeker space myself as well, there's a level of wisdom that comes across in your voice and in the way that you are seemingly naturally inquisitive internally. Where's that come from? Because I feel like maybe that's one of the gifts that seem to come through you and your work in every stage that I've witnessed anyway.
I think it's the feeling of excellence versus mediocre. Like a lot of times in our society, we've settled for mediocrity with our health. A lot of doctors respond to other women in a way that's like, well, your labs are fine, therefore you should be fine. So there's this standard of, okay, mediocrity. Maybe you don't have a disease, but it's okay. Maybe you're not fulfilled, but you're okay. There's a level of comfort and safety there. And that might be cool for some people to live there, but then I also find for myself, I have this almost, that's not good enough. I would love this. this like overflow of better, more memories, experiences, relationships, like it goes deeper, that I find I'm really lit up by. So that expansion and going deeper on the desires, like not settling anymore, has really driven me to do the work, do the hard work.
Again, loads. So exciting, because literally today I have had that conversation with a girlfriend. I've had my bloods done, they've come back, they say there's nothing wrong, they're all normal, except I might be a little bit anemic. And she's like, yeah, but I wanted to know more information. I wanted to be able to really get focused on what I need to change. Something else that you said there that kind of aligns with that is this excellence and this kind of societal energy to be in comfort rather than in excellence. And you mentioned you were an athlete. I understand that you were a CrossFit coach as well to begin with. And they are energies that you require quite a lot of determination for and resilience and push through. What gave you that? What you know, what was in you? Was, excuse like I suppose the trauma therapist in me, it's like, where did that come from? Why did you have to be excellent? Why do you have to be excellent?
Totally. And I think a lot of my drive and success comes back from wounds, like subconscious beliefs that were formed 0 to 7 or 8 years old, where now there's that higher standard. And I recognize that in a lot of my business where I built it to a certain part just off of trauma.
Yeah.
Like if I don't get here, I'm not good enough. If I don't, and I believe that served me in a way to develop grit, to develop hustle, to develop a really good, strong work ethic. But I realized it was rooted into this energy of, if I'm not doing, I'm useless. If I'm not performing, if I don't succeed. So I had a moment in my business where I had to check that and look at, okay, what is that next level? You've just proven you can work yourself to exhaustion by getting here. What's next for you? And so it was almost surrendering and showing acceptance to that little girl that learned, if you're not working, I grew up on a farm, so we're up early, you got to work hard, right? For not a lot of pay. So that's the energy I grew up with. So I had to look at that and be like, what needs to be accepted? And then where do I want to move into next? Which is the energy of, I work hard because I have a certain desire. It feels good. Everything feels good in my business. I want to go after success for self-worth, not because success is based with lack or success is based with a wound. It's now like success, worth. Okay, cool. We feel good. Everything is aligned. I don't have self-worth because of success. My self-worth is anchored in no matter what, and I can achieve success. So it was quite a shift.
I'm from a projector getting up early on a morning to work all day on a farm. Oh, sorry, little Alicia. But it's worked out well in the end. I see this, and and I invite the audience into their own reflections on this as well. That, again, coming back to that comfortable energy in society, that there is an opportunity for excellence, regardless of what is driving us. And, in my business, and I'm sure you see it in yours too, it's not just us that get to the success through trauma. I think a lot of very brilliant businesses are built on the response of, I'm not good enough. And then we get to, oh, I kind of am good enough. What's driving me now? And it's that wisdom that comes from the wound. You can get the success from the wound. But what happens, like you just said, when you start to hit that wall, that burnout, when you start to realize, can I carry on like this? Do I really need that out there to make me feel good in here? What was your particular story? Can you remember a moment where it happened for you, or a time in the business?
I think it unfolded very beautifully. It was like little hits. And I find entrepreneurship the biggest transformation, and it's been about potential work for me. And so I'm quite obsessed, I'm going to say, about going inward. And I've been like that since I was 12. So for me, it just slowly unfolded. Like, why do I care? Where am I getting heightened from? Like where do I feel that there's still things that are holding me back? So it's always been for me, what's the next level of growth? And once I anchored it into potential, like what is my highest level of potential? How can I feel my fully self-expressed? And also, what are my authentic truths? This was a big one. It's looking at what really matters to me, because it's not necessarily the money. What matters is financial freedom, financial, like, ability to travel, to have that overflow feeling, which I love, creative expression. So these are the things that I started to realize on the way, that this is what's important to me. And money is kind of that byproduct that happens once I'm fully in aligned. But I don't know if there was an exact moment. It was like, okay, here's the thing that you need to switch, or else you're gonna fry yourself. Or if you don't start forming some emotional resiliency, the business is gonna break you. Like, being an entrepreneur, you're holding a lot. You're holding a team, you're holding clients, you're holding social media, you're holding trolls, like you're holding all these things, people's opinions of you, perspectives, projections.
Yeah.
So along the journey, it's like, okay, I can hold this and stay true, authentic, or I'm gonna crumble. So what do you choose? Because if I keep this same energy and I'm starting to take everything around me personally, I'm gonna crumble. Whereas, who do I want to become in this moment? And that's helped me. And each phase, it's like, who do I want to become in this moment? Okay, what's your highest version of yourself? And then I respond. And then it builds and builds and evolves and unlayers.
So good. And the thing that's coming through me, which is so off kilter a little bit, is like, I'm gonna say it because I feel like you're spiritual anyway. Like, where's your dad in this? This is the question that wants to come through me. So totally not where I wanted to go with this, but it feels like, you know, where's the dad in this? It feels like there's a real strong support, but also a strong kind of a support, but you've still got to do this on your own sort of energy. And I don't know whether, but it feels like there's a strong masculine there as well.
Totally. Yeah, I would say I've had a very strong father figure, and like someone to really look up to, but I definitely feel my business was driven by the masculine, and it wasn't until the last 2 years where I had to move into the feminine and healing the sisterhood, healing the motherhood wound, healing the witch wound. That's where, like, my masculine is anchored and strong, and it's like sturdy. I've got an amazing partner. I've attracted, like, my dad's incredible, Kirk's amazing, and then it was the feminine that actually needed a lot of healing for me, because it's that energy of, what if I rest today? What if I do nothing? How can I be more open with other women? How can I connect deeper? And I find it very strange. I went into women's health when I'd had so many issues with women my entire life. And I'm like, going into women's health, obviously to heal something there, it's all a mirror. So that's where I found a lot of work came from, was healing those wounds.
Gosh, this is it's just beautiful. I feel like we're meandering, like you mentioned, the witch wound and the sisterhood, the motherhood wound. Are our hormones out of balance because we have been brought up inside of such a strong patriarchal driven world as women? Is that what you see, or what do you see around that?
Yeah, I call it the queen energy, the goddess, and the superwoman energy. And our queen energy is very doing. Like, she's efficient, she gets things done, she's like success driven. And then the superwoman energy is very much, I got to do things for people. I want to be this for this person. I need to do this. It's that, like, caring energy.
Yeah.
And then the goddess is, I'm going to go outside and play in the forest, and I'm flirty and fun and feminine and just flowy. And so I've noticed for myself, is my queen, she's a rock star. My superwoman, rock star, but almost in overdrive. They are outperforming. The goddess is like trapped.
Right.
So when the goddess is trapped now, and we see this in society where it's been pushed, like, go, hustle, do everything, be everything for everyone else. Rest makes you weak. Rest makes you unworthy. So now we've got cortisol issues, insulin issues, estrogen. We're not connected with our bodies, our cycles. We feel like we're not enough, we're not good enough. our brain, everything is going because we're not connected into that feminine energy, the goddess energy. So I see this a lot with clients where we've got to almost move them out of the queen a little bit. I love my queen. She's a rock star. Move her out of superwoman because right now she's sacrificing her health for the sake of everyone else, and just let the goddess come out, release her, and come out to play for a little bit. And then things start falling into alignment again. But even when someone approaches their health protocol, if they do it from queen energy, they're just like taking their supplements and checking all the things off their list. But the way that they're doing it is from that fierce, intense energy instead of the supplements role, which is supposed to be very grounding and calming and opening. So their approach is off.
Because it feeds so much into the work that I do as well. But I see a mirror, and I'm sure a lot of the audience listening will see this mirror, that as women, particularly anyone that is anywhere below the age of 50, let's say, because there's quite a big bracket there, but we have been driven by this industrial society, by our parents before us that were in that energy as well. Just do, work. Money is not only the root of all evil, but it's also the thing that we're all chasing. And, you know, and there's this big lack energy in this society. And it's so counterintuitive when you're inside of that culture to rest. So counterintuitive for women to love themselves, to love other women. We've been given such a high level of competition. And we're seeing this in the coaching space at the moment, you know, this really looking for this collaboration rather than, you know, this competition. But I feel like there's a long way to go. And the hormone story feels like it's been something that's not necessarily been hidden from us, because technology, science is now revealing things anyway. But it feels like this is a key for healing this witch wound that you mentioned, this mother wound, this sisterhood wound. How do we get women that are busy, that are wanting to be entrepreneurs, that have got great stories to tell, that are bringing up children, that are running households, that are running around crazy? How do we get them to understand that actually the counterintuitive way, even when taking supplements, is to do it in a soft, bodily, open, feminine, grounded way?
Yeah.
What's the key to that message?
I feel like what's coming through me is the release of their emotion, right? We've been so, like, I know I was grown up, emotions are bad, emotions make you weak, don't cry in front of people, shut it down. And I did through elementary, high school, college. And there was this moment where I'm like, no, this doesn't feel good. I feel like I'm just going to pop. And I just let it all loose. Human design, I'm emotional authority. So I'm going to ride those emotional waves. And I spent years bottling it down. And I believe that's one of the reasons why now I've got all these physical manifestations coming up, these physical ailments. So for a lot of women, it's almost like releasing the emotions and starting to tap back into feeling again. Like, how does your body actually feel, right? Are you doing any kind of sensuality practice? Are you doing things that feel good, that tap into your senses? And when we can start connecting feeling to the body, because a lot of our clients don't even know how they want to feel. They just know right now it's not where they want to be. Something feels off, but they have no idea how they want to feel. And when we ask them, like, how are you feeling? They just don't know. They can't connect to it.
Yeah.
So what if we release those instead of suppressing them? And it might be slowly, because we don't want to just pop, slowly releasing them, tapping back into your body, feeling that innate wisdom, and then, you know, allowing the healing process to take place from there.
Also an emotional authority. I know what it feels to be stuffed down. And I think, you know, from that perspective, there can be a lot of resentment and anger because, like you said, there's no space for that emotion to come out. Can you share with us a time where, you know, you just mentioned there, I'm going to pop. Can you give us a memory or a story around when that occurred and what you did, whether it was great or not so great?
Oh, you know what? I got a good one. I'm sure there's so many, but one, it was so silly. Like, I find when we're at this moment where we're going to pop, it's a minor inconvenience. And all of a sudden, our emotional reaction doesn't fit the situation.
Yeah.
And for me, that just what came through was I had this car situation where my car kept breaking down, and I would bring it back to my hometown 45 minutes away to go to a mechanic. We would tell the mechanic exactly what we needed. Me and my dad were like, this is what we need with this car. They would return it and something would be wrong. They would forget something or something would be off. So I'd have to go back and forth while I was in med school, while I was working part-time. So it felt so, I call it overstimulated. I don't
Yeah.
like to say stressed anymore. It's like I'm overstimulated. There's too much coming at me and my body is can't keep up with the stimulation. So I was driving home and they didn't put there was this something on the bottom of the car. They didn't anchor it in. So it started dragging across the ground. And I got back at the house and my partner came out, my roommates came out, and I just sat on the ground and bawled, like was just a hot mess in front of, and this is not someone who's ever cried in front of people. I'm crying in front of Kirk, I'm crying in front of my roommates because my car has a little piece that's fallen off. Not at the end of the world. It was going to be fine, but it was just this emotion where I couldn't handle it. The stress, the stimulation, everything was just piling up. I wasn't doing the work to properly process and release things. So boom, there I was in front of all my neighbors, a hot mess.
Yeah, she needs some therapy.
Just a car.
It's interesting, isn't it, how we allow things to build up inside of our system and not process it. And then you mentioned like there's this disproportionate energy between our response and what's actually occurring. In terms of kind of your own story, moving then from this wound, let's just call it kind of like the developmental understanding of your body, your nervous system, and moving into the wisdom of how to heal your body and kind of going inward, looking at questioning yourself for excellence and moving forward. How did you then start working with other women? What took you to the next level?
For me, it's always been people asked me and invited me in, typical projector style.
Yeah.
They invited me, what are you doing? How are you doing it? And so I started working with people, they were getting results, and just my work has only got deeper. Even in the mentorship space, I didn't start it until someone said, hey, what are you doing? I love this. And can I join? And so I started privately working with people. So for me, it's always been that invitation. And this was even before I understood projector energy. I just waited for that invite. And my role is to shine and to share and go deeper on the things that I'm learning. For me, it's always about deeper within myself. Like when I learn health things, it's for me first.
Yeah.
And then from that place, now that energy gets to move to other people because I think I need to be a few steps ahead, or at least at a deeper level of healing for me to guide people into that space as well. Same with my business. I want to be at a certain level before guiding people into that space. So I've always done that work for myself and then shared the knowledge, and then people got attracted. I call it like attracted to that light. And now I'm guiding people on their journey with it.
I love it. So start to teach us, take us into, some of the key pieces of information women need to understand about their hormones and about this new way of understanding ourselves, this feminine way inside of this bigger masculine system.
Yeah, I'd say one big one is really understanding cycles throughout the month and how we're feeling different phases. We tend to just relate to one cycle when really we've got 4. So helping women understand how their energy, their mood, their confidence, even how their hair feels at different points so that they can understand what's going on. And instead of resisting it, like I found I really resisted changes. Like certain parts of the month, you've got more cravings, you want to eat more carbs, you don't want to work out as much, you want more rest, you want to sleep in more. And I used to resist that. And I now know that actually activates fat storing hormones. So we don't do that anymore, but I used to. And I know a lot of women that are like, I need more rest, but I can't. Or I want more food, but I'm on this diet, so I can't. So starting to understand how the different phases, you feel a different way and you're like being a different way. And instead of resisting them, you start living in alignment with them. That's a big thing. The other huge one is really understanding your stress response. Like what triggers you, what makes you tick, where are you getting irritable, annoyed, like understanding that, because I feel like we really wear busy and stressed as a badge of honor. And it does nothing for your hormones. It is the hormone destroyer. So starting to understand, I call it like phases of adrenal dysfunction. Where are you in the muck? And then understanding where your stressors are coming from and how can you change the perception to them. Because anyone can be a worrier, but if you can change the thought process, change the way that you respond to that trigger, now you can approach it from a higher sense of self instead of the maybe scared 6-year-old self that's just living in a loop.
And as you're saying that, I'm feeling this, like this magical energy of the body, and how amazing it would be if we could just scan it and see, you know, what's actually working and what's not working. Because some things are pretty obvious, and other things, like you know, can see the investigative energy that you have to really go deep. And you know, I've taken some of your courses and gone through and looked at how deeply you can see the hormones are connected with each other. How can we as women now, you know, you mentioned these two, the stress response, and how can we understand our own unique energy deeper? You know, what do we need to do? I'm moving into this perimenopausal energy, lots of brain fog. Although, you know, also the same with the stress response. Mine is time. You know, I want lots of time freedom, and I can cram lots of things in for one day, and then the next day I'm like, again. And there's this kind of get up and go, and then this body going, no, do not do that. But the kids still need to get to school. You know, we need to feed them. We've got, you know, interviews to do, etc. So what are the triggers? What are the things that will take us from that? Yes, I understand what my stress response is, but how do I then change that or shift that?
What really helped me was understanding everything I do is my choice now. So even when it was doing stuff that I didn't want to do, and I knew like I'm building this business so I don't have to ever do this again, but in this moment, it's my choice. So I lived with my parents. I got out of school and I lived with my parents in their basement where there was no privacy. It was insane, but it was a choice to help me save money, to help me build my business for a sense of security. So I had to keep reminding myself that when my mom would come to the top of the stairs and yell down while I was on a live call that my laundry was done, that was super stressful. And I'm always thinking, well, what will people think? Are they going to think this is unprofessional? She's ruining my videos. You know, my cycle, my brain would spin on all the reasons why this was awful and stressful. And then I'd have to anchor into, this is what I choose right now. Like I choose to live here. It's my choice to live here. I do have an option. We could leave. However, now I've got sacrifices. Now I got to pay a lot of rent. Now I've got to, maybe I'll have to go get another job instead of focusing on my business. But I had to anchor in that all of it is my choice and I get to choose how I show up. And so can I switch that to gratitude instead? I can still fixate on, I'm going to have my own place one day. I'm going to have my own house. I'm going to have privacy. I'm going to have an office. So I would really think about that a lot, but then also know that right now I choose to be in this basement for all these reasons. And this is the desire. And that helped me, that gratitude for where I am and the desire that I was moving forward.
I hope everyone listened to that. Go back, rewind, listen to it again. What's gorgeous about this is, you know, this feels very spiritual. You know, the feeling of connection, the feeling of faith, the feeling of trust, this trust in something bigger, wider, trusting in time as well. You know, where's that come from for you?
I would say the evolution in all of this too, because when I started all of this, it was deadlines, you got to perform at a certain level, it was very structured, very rigid. And so for me, it's always, again, tapping into that feeling. How do I want to feel every day? And then, is the way that I'm living right now anchored into that feeling? And often it was no. Okay, cool. How can you release that? How can you release that? And I just kept releasing the thought patterns and the things, and I'm still releasing them, right? There's moments in my day I'll look at the day and said, where did I get heightened? Where did I feel emotional turbulence? What triggered me? What things come up, so that I can continue working towards how I want to feel, even just 1% every day. And that 1%, instead of saying, even for a lot of our goals, we want to do 0 to 100 overnight, whereas I've really been committed to 1% every day. And if I can move and shift just 1%, I'm constantly growing. But if I try to do the 100, that's going to feel very overwhelming. That's going to feel like a lot of pressure. I might feel disappointed if I don't get there tomorrow. And that didn't feel great. But a 1% shift, that felt really good, felt successful.
So much joy here. There is so many diamonds. The 1% club, that's a really, really good one. I like that. That eases my nervous system. So moving towards kind of like the wealth trajectory then. And, you mentioned that, not just money as wealth, but this fulfillment, this time freedom, the freedom to be, do, have what you wish at certain times. And that it was a byproduct of being in service to yourself and in service to others. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's the authentic truths. It's like, who do you want to be, and what do you value, and who do you want to become? So I get my clients to look at what is really important to you, because it might not necessarily have anything to do with money. It might be a sense of security. It might be consistency coming in. Like, what do you truly value? And when you look at that, because a lot of times we set goals based on what society thinks we need, what our parents have conditioned us to believe, coding that we have, traumas, wounds, like we set goals based off of that, and they're not authentic goals. They're not based on our values. So if we can let those goals go and think about, what do you really want? Like, how do you really want to feel? What's important to you? Then we can set goals from that place of like real authentic truth. And now we can move forward from a place of alignment instead of what other people think we need.
And so have you seen this with your own clients, that when they start to address their own health, when they start to address their own stressors, when they start to address their own safety in their body, that they are able to move and manifest and create something that is beyond potentially where they were before, but certainly in alignment with their vision, with their authentic truth?
Totally. Like, once you're connected to your body, and I think this is the first step in everything that we want in life, is how do you feel inside? And if there's something that's there where you don't feel good, I think it blocks everything. It blocks things from showing up that are really in service of our highest truth. So we get the health anchored in. You feel better, you start getting control, or you know what you need to do to feel better, or you've got a heightened awareness that when things come up, you're willing to look in and deal with them. A lot of people just brush them off, they push them down and try to go after their goals that way. Whereas I think this body is the most important. This physical experience that I'm having, it's the most important. Deal with what's going on, and then everything is an extension of that. When I am well, when I am taken care of, my light is brighter. When I'm stressed out, burnt out, not sleeping, whatever it is, overstimulated, the shine only goes so far. So I think of this as the portal of activation, and then the light goes based on how much I'm taking care of myself.
And I love that. I second that. And I also recognize that, again, using cosmic language, using spiritual language, this isn't just a naturopath talking about hormones. This isn't just a business mentor talking about how to get your first 6 figures or your 7 figures. There's a deeper spiritual energy there that certainly I'm attracted to, but I feel like, there's something else moving for you in this arena, something moving through your life. How do you describe that? What comes up when I say that for you? You know, where is your faith, belief in whatever is there?
Oh boy, I feel like it's constantly it's constantly expanding and changing. Um, oh, honestly, I think a lot of it is just belief in myself and that connectedness between all of us. So belief in myself, almost anchoring into whatever higher power is setting it up, forming a connection with that, and then a connection with everybody around me. Connection with nature, connection with earth, connection with other dimensions, making sure that my energetic field is good. And I mean, at the end of the day, my goal is to feel happy. And so what does happiness mean for me? And I know that when I'm happy, the ripple effect of that serves the world in the greatest way. When I'm happy, I show up differently. When I'm happy, the people around me feel happier. Like the energy is infectious. And so if I could say my spirituality in one way, it's like me being happy and that connection moving through all things, all people, all universes, all the world, like whatever it is, all of it.
I love that, which brings that kernel back to you are the medicine. You know, when we live our authentic truth, when we follow that calling, that move, that hit, that inquisitive curiosity, and then start to live in alignment, like you said, for yourself first, and then move into that service, you know, I kind of want to anchor that for everyone to hear, that when I'm happy, everyone else around me gets to be happy. So call it what you like, but if I fill myself up, if I start with me, it creates this unique ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us an example of that in your life, whether it be in your family, in your business, a particular client?
Mm-hmm. Like where I'm happy and it gets felt?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually noticed it as simple as maybe walking into the coffee shop. Like I've seen some of my clients when they're so stressed, they're so triggered, they walk into the coffee shop, they get the wrong coffee, boom, they're snapping at the barista, or even just like a short little snap, you know? Maybe they go to work and the way that they deal with their colleagues, with their team members is just there's something there. They're irritable, they're not approachable, there's no support there. People don't feel like they're rising to their highest power to be around them. Then maybe they go home and their partner brings home the wrong toothpaste and she's like a piranha snapping at them. So I noticed that when I'm in a place, small inconveniences, when I'm in a good place, small inconveniences aren't going to disrupt my energy, right? I'm able to move through challenges with ease and with grace and from a higher sense of self. So now how I communicate with my partner is from my highest self, not my lowest self who can be a savage. My highest self responds with a certain energy to her. When I show up at my parents' house, whatever mood they're in, if I come in with a bright, uplifting energy, everyone around them, or at least a safe energy, people are going to feel a certain way. With my clients, it's so important that my energy is in check, because when they're coming to me, and if I'm annoyed that day or a little bit triggered, how I respond to them is going to be from that triggered state. And I find our world is just one triggered person after the next. And it's like you go into the coffee shop, you trigger the barista, then the person they serve next, they're triggered by the first person, so they're going to respond bad. And so the trigger keeps continuing. So I think it's my responsibility to notice where my triggers come up. And instead of spreading them to my partner, to my family, to my team members, to Kirk, it's like we deal with that trigger. And sometimes I deal with it. Sometimes it sneaks by at full intensity. Sometimes it's half intensity. But the work is like, okay, what happened there? And where did I let that trigger keep going? And then we can start, I find, healing ourselves, but then healing everything.
I love it. I love it. It's like a little virus, isn't it? It just touches everything, and it's either touching it with dark energy or touching it with light energy.
Totally.
Oh, there's just so much there. It feels, well, first of all, you feel very sunshine, which is beautiful. And so it's affecting me, which is nice. The question I want to ask you is, to stay in this energy, you mentioned, you know, being in a particular energy is paramount for your clients. You know, they're paying you to essentially bring that energy, bring that wisdom, guide them. What is your number one tip or not number one tip, the number one thing you do yourself for maintaining that energy in every day?
Yeah, I would say it's emotional releasing, whether that's through tapping, whether it's through breath work, hypnotherapy, meditation. But it's also when you emotionally process, I feel like I'm more vulnerable. So I'm not always going to show up to a client call like sunshine and rainbows. I might feel sad. And I believe there's a lot of wisdom that gets held in the sadness too. I'm just very careful that if I'm triggered or the sadness isn't allowing the other person to feel like it's their fault. So if I come to a call and I'll say, hey, everyone, I'm feeling sad. Here's what I'm going through. And I know I'm very emotional wise when I'm in certain phases, but it's that vulnerability to say I'm moving through it, I'm working through it, and I'm not going to transfer the energy to you. I'm just being real in this space. So that's helped a lot too. Instead of putting on a persona where I have to come on here and be like happy all the time, I find my energetic frequency set point is happy, but there's moments I'm sad, there's moments where I'm frustrated, and it's just clearing the energy, but also showing up in the space with that energy and not feeling ashamed or guilty about it.
Which takes work.
Yeah.
It definitely takes work. I mean, that is like the highest, isn't it? I don't feel shame or guilt for feeling like this today. It's powerful, it's simple, but yet, you know, it's highly effective. And I think what I'm hearing is this consistency daily to being in emotional hygiene, in hormonal hygiene, in, you know, nervous system regulation. So something that's been coming through me as we've been speaking, and I kind of want to bring it now, is you mentioned, I never thought I would be working in women's health because I had problems with other women relationships. Give us an example of how that's shifted for you, and what is it, where are you in that kind of sisterhood space now?
Yeah, grew up as a competitive athlete, so women kind of pitting each other against other women to achieve success, whether you're competing for a spot on the team or the position or someone's doing better than you. So very competitive energy happening all the time. So when I moved through school, it was still the same thing. Who's got the best grades? Naturopathic medicine is a lot of female. So you're in that energy all the time. And then eventually just to a point where you couldn't trust other people. I didn't have friendship, like the biggest heartbreaks are other women. So you form just a resiliency around it, right? You're just like, do I really trust you? And so I find it kind of odd that I was given situations and little hints to move forward on this so that I could heal that part of myself, healing the relationship with my mom, healing my relationship with my sister. Like even if they were unsaid things, it was just that acceptance of who they were and that they are the best they can be. And I'm responsible for my emotions around it. And then the relationships I have with friends. And then eventually it turned into getting clients and having good relationships with them that weren't based on jealousy, envy, competition, but more like, I want to collaborate with you because I see your power. And that's taken a lot. Whereas in the past, it was, I don't want you to succeed because, you know, there's a threat there. So now I want you to succeed because I see us both rising in our power. And that's been the biggest shift for me.
It's such an important shift right now for women of all ages. You know, I have two young daughters, 8 and 11, turning 21 and 25 very, very quickly. And it's interesting to see it doesn't change and it does change. You know, it doesn't change that there is that competition, but it does change that they are more aware of being able to communicate. Whereas I feel like in, you know, recent generations, it's been difficult to communicate with other women because of that competition and because of the social media. And now we're getting to see that other side, that we can use the media to connect, to collaborate, to raise each other up. And I love that you mentioned the queen and the goddess energy. You know, the superwoman. I feel like sometimes I'm in that myself with the children, but the goddess energy must rise for these other two energies to settle back and collaborate and actually see each one of us as this divine, unique fingerprint of whatever you want to call it, whether it's God, whether it's universe, whether it's, you know, Gaia, it doesn't matter. But when you are the medicine, and I've clearly felt it from you, I know the people that have worked with you have felt it from you, and there are many other women like us that are walking their purpose as much as they can and unveiling themselves from the inside out, step by step, pain by pain, laughter by laughter. That when we allow ourselves to be guided in that space, that we do become our own medicine, and then we can give that out to the world. What will you leave our audience with around that kind of that energy? And, you know, what's your message for the women out there that are listening to this conversation?
I think awareness is everything, right? Like, just be aware of the signs and symptoms, and don't settle for mediocrity. If you don't feel well in some area, you can get the answers some way, somehow. I believe that we can all recenter and heal within. So it's the awareness of where the warning bells going off, and then working on them. And it might be a situation, a relationship, it might be a health concern. Just the awareness first, and then the desire to feel better. And when those are anchored in, now you can take the supplements or do the protocol or whatever it is, they're going to fall into line. But I do find a lot of us, we just ignore, or we shove down, we pretend it's not there. When that awareness and the desire to heal comes first, now things start shifting.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know there's going to be a lot of people wanting to know where they can find you, how they can get in touch with you, and how they can work with you. So share with us.
Totally. Yeah, I've got 2 Instagram channels, Dr.Alicia MacPherson, and then the Alicia MacPherson, depending on health or business. And it's the main platform of choice that I have right now.
I'm so excited to guide people there, because you will find yourself going down a rabbit hole very, very quickly, and signing up to Alicia's incredible protocols, because they are life-changing. Thank you so much for being a part of this. You are the medicine, we are the medicine, and we get to share that medicine. So much love, sister.
Thank you so much for having me.